Hey, can I ask you silly questions?
Tell us something spicy about. It works. That's a big if, because the auction description did not say anything about running. It just said forklift. When I got to the sale to pick it up, I of course tried the key, and nothing happened. Completely stone dead. All the other equipment in the sale that said it was a running item said as much in the listing description. This one didn't say anything about running conditions, so kind of an unknown. Definitely had a good layer of dust on it. Still does. I don't think it's seen any action in quite a long time. So was it parked for a reason, or just they didn't have a use for it anymore? What's the story? I don't know, but I had to take the forks off to haul it the way we did. I brought it home, I set it here, and I have not touched it other than I opened up the battery compartment. The battery doesn't look super old, although I can't find the date code on it. So I threw the battery charger on it. It's been charging overnight. I guess it's time to dive into this thing and see if we have any juice, or I haven't even pulled a dipstick yet. Is there any oil? Is there any antifreeze? We need to answer all these questions. So let's have a little closer look at this unit. The only Clark forklift I ever ran was an old 1970s electric unit, and it's been a long time since I've run that, but I think this one's set up the same way. So basically, this is your up and down for your forks, and then this is your tilt forward and backward. These should be shifters. There's a plate down here that says as much, I think. Yeah, so it looks like we have a high and low range over here, and then your forward and reverse is over here. I wonder if that means this isn't a power shift. I hope it doesn't have an actual clutch. The brake. Oh no. And this is why you should look at things, kids. That seems to be an actual clutch over there, which means you can't just like bump it around. You actually have to slip the clutch and drive it like a manual, I think. I don't know. I've never seen one quite set up like this. The last small pneumatic tire forklift I had that I was hoping to have for the same reason was a little cat tow motor, and we had the same issue. It was a manual. I just don't think they're nearly as nice to use as an automatic or a power shift forklift. So this is set up for propane. You can see we have a tank holder back here and a line going for the tank. But I also saw this cap over here, and I know there's a hydraulic on the other side there by the battery. So I think this is for gasoline, which means this could be a dual fuel unit. I am not positive on that.
There's a speed trap ahead.
There's a sending unit right there. I can't tell if it has like a carburetor or an evaporator style throttle body on it. You know what? We have a fuel gauge up here too, so that would only be for a gas tank. It must be set up for dual fuel. Well, that could be kind of nice. If you run out of propane, you just switch over to gasoline. Uh-oh. Seat latch doesn't seem to be working. Alright, having a little peek under the hood here. It looks like we got a little 4-cylinder. I'm assuming this is a Continental, but I don't know them well enough to guarantee that. Look at that, that's interesting. I've never seen anything like that. This would be your generator over here, so that is what charges your battery. But then it seems like there's a through shaft. It goes through over here to this power steering pump, maybe? That is unique. I've never seen anything like that. We have fluid. That's a good sign. I still haven't found the dipstick yet. Oh, there it is. Looks like there might be an engine tag down there too. We got clean oil right up to the add mark, so it's good enough to try it. Last thing I want to do is check our radiator. See if we can see anything in there. It's got moisture in there. Might just be just below the tubes. I'm going to say it's good enough for us to just investigate to see if it's going to be a runner or not. Alright, well I guess we're ready to go ahead and see if this battery has held any charge overnight, or if the key switch works, or if the engine turns, anything. I don't know anything about this. So I put both of these shifters into neutral, I believe. There goes nothing. Can I get a contact? Oh, look at that! Sweet! Turns over. Sounds pretty good. I mean, I didn't expect it to fire up. We don't have any fuel connected to it, but Just looking at our battery cables, this terminal is a bit suspect, so the fact that it even held a charge and cranks over makes me very happy. Look at that, it sounds good. Sweet. This might be a really easy one, guys. It always makes me excited when something like that cranks over, when you really took a gamble. Like I said, I didn't look at this thing at all at pre-sale. I just kind of said, throw some money at it, see what happens, and knock on wood, I usually can pick them. Getting to be that time of day, it's time to think about what we're eating for lunch. Here's what we got today. You guys have heard me talk about factor meals before, and for good reason. These things are absolutely delicious. You will not believe how good these can be until you try them for yourself. The aluminum tank. Might have to loosen up this hose and reconfigure it. It's kind of all tightened down to where I can't get it on there. I don't know that it's good or bad, but this seems to be just a hydraulic hose that they have made up.
Like the stream, guys. Like the stream.
Hey.
Subscribe. Like the stream
I
right
don't think
now.
propane would eat that, but I don't know. I know that that's not a typical hose for propane use. Turn our valve on nice and slowly and check for leaks. When I don't hear anything egregious, I don't hear anything at all, actually. Nice. Oh, I'm getting excited. This could be interesting. Alright, well, fingers crossed that I picked a winner here. Shifters are still in neutral. Can I get eye contact? Well, that ain't real good. I was hoping it was just going to pop right off, but it doesn't look like we're getting that lucky. Is there sometimes there's a purge button on these evaporators for the propane system. I didn't think to look for that. Let's see one. Oh, there's one. Down here, here's a throttle body. I hit it a few times, see what happens. Where we have no signs of life. That is disappointing. I was hopeful, but it's never that easy. I guess we should check for spark. I'm going to do that by using ether. See if it likes that. Contact. We had some ignition. Sweet. The real question is, why aren't we getting any propane? Is the regulator stuck? Is the evaporator not working right? It seemed like it took right off on that ether. I would have thought it would have picked up the propane. Contact. Aha! Stay running, please stay running. Oh, it actually sounded pretty good there for a second. I don't know if it just needs to purge out the lines for the propane or what the deal is here, but it was definitely running on more than ether for a second. Give her another go here. Contact. Look at that, no ether at all that time. We're getting better. Oh, that starter didn't sound good there. Yeah. I tell you what, she sounds pretty good. We got to idle now. That's the question. Seems pretty good. Come on, stay running, girl. Stay running. Oh, I'm excited. That went pretty good. Might just need to make some adjustments here onto our evaporator or the throttle body, and maybe it's going to stay running for us. That was sweet. I don't think there's an oil pressure gauge, though. No oil pressure gauge, so I can't read that. I'm sure it's probably good. Doesn't sound like it's knocking or anything. I guess before I start tweaking on anything, because I'm not super savvy with the propane systems, before I start tweaking on stuff, I'm going to try to keep it running a little bit longer. Maybe try to actually see if it'll move back and forth. From just these couple little short times it's been running now, it seems like it's run better each time. So maybe we are purging air or something out of the line. Don't know. I'm kind of impressed that battery seems like it's held a charge pretty well. So maybe it hasn't been that long ago that they were actually using this thing. I don't know. So I was going to try to move it, which means I also need to really run the forks up and down, or, you know, the mast at least. There's no forks on it at the moment. And then I noticed that our one lifting chain is off the pulley up there. So I need to address that before I actually do a whole lot of lifting per se with it. Probably not enough slack to just toss it on there by hand. So if I get it running, and assuming that the hydraulic system even functions, I will run it up, because it should be able to do it with just the one chain lifting. And then I'll stick that wood underneath the fork carriage and let it back down, which will give me slack in the chain, but I should be able to stick the other side back on. Let's try her again. Here, contact. Look at that, it started without ether this time. Giving it a little bit of throttle. Yep, no, she's got to have some sort of issue with the regulator. We're not getting any fuel with cranking, it doesn't seem like. Alright, let's see if the hydraulics are going to work. Oh, yeah, okay. That's the longest it's run yet. And the hydraulic system functions, so we're still points ahead here. Seems like my blanketed roller chain worked out pretty good too. Uh-oh. Maybe. Seems like it's kind of made to not be able to come off like it did. There is, the way the mast is built up here, kind of makes it so you have to loop that chain up and over. I don't know how it got out of where it is. How the heck do we fix this? How the heck did it get out of here in the first place is the real question.
Dyson have engineered a machine to wash hard floors properly, using clean water.
Alright, I figured out how it must have popped off of there. If you raise the mast up independently from the boom, or from the lifting cylinder rather, the gap on this little piece of casting that retains the chain gets bigger. There we go. Popped it right back on. So,
there's a lane closure ahead.
Around probably did that. Should be good to go now, I think. Or are you going to start without ether? Come on, give me a contact. It was real close there. It just takes a tickle.
Charger went out, guys, so I'm gonna unplug the charger.
Making a liar out of me. What's happening now? First I've sat in this seat. It is snug.
Subscribe to the channel, guys. If you haven't subscribed, like the stream. Want to climb a
We're
plateau.
going to see about get to some
Climb a plateau.
more room for the lake.
Alright.
Now what? Things working so good. Did the whole like go bad on us or something? I mean, it's like we're getting nothing now. The ether should at least be popping. Explain yourself. Thank goodness. I was almost borderline into regret territory there. Look at that, guys. Seems like it's actually idling now. Now it's idling a bit high. I still haven't adjusted anything. I'm not sure if you guys can see all the water coming out of that cylinder right now. But basically, forklift cylinders like this are typically only single acting, which means there's only supposed to be hydraulic fluid on the bottom side of the piston, and then gravity just brings it back down. This thing sat outside before that auction for quite a while, and apparently the dust seal is no good on that cylinder, and it just filled up that top half of the piston with water, so we just pumped it all out of there effectively. But it seems like the hydraulics do everything it's supposed to do. It tilts back all the way, which is, it tilts back quite a bit actually. That might be another difference on rough terrain forklifts. The forks tilt back further maybe. This boom is also a double stage boom, so it goes up pretty far. But enough chit chat. The power steering works. Look at that. I guess it's time for the moment of truth. Is this thing actually going to drive? And how is the transmission? Do I have to have the clutch? You know, do I have to use it like a standard? Let's put it in low for now. Seems like a smart move. I think it's in low. Sure seems like it's a manual. Yeah, it seems like a manual and it doesn't want to move. Here be the problem, folks. So we're in low. Yeah, it seems like a manual and it doesn't want to move. Here be the problem, folks. So we're in low. It should go really easy. Oh, I might have just had a brake stuck there. That'll move. Going back to this whole clutch thing, though, it just makes this very unusable, much easier to get it stuck. That's very disappointing. Should have paid better attention to that. And look at that, we're already sticking ourselves like a lawn dart. This gravel back here is very loose. hasn't been out here long enough to really compact itself. Look at that. All the things that I said I liked about this forklift, proving me wrong in real time. I mean, even though it's stuck less than a solid tire machine would be in the same spot. But at the end of the day, I don't think that makes a difference. Stuck is stuck. Your solid tire machine wouldn't even be thinking about trying to get out of here. Oh, she might not be stuck. I might be able to bounce my way out of here. Rocket bar. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Come on, start. Oh, ho, ho! It restarted without ether. Ho, ho! What a hunk of junk. We might have it. Might have it.
Oh, we got her.
All right. See, objectively, definitely better than the solid tire machine. Because I'm telling you guys, the solid tire machine would have never even thought about getting itself out of there. Well, I mean, I guess I'm happy with it in the sense that it runs and functions, but I'm disappointed in the sense that I didn't pay attention and realized that it wasn't a power shift unit. I don't know, I guess I'll give it the old college try. It's still light years ahead of that Caterpillar one that we had that I didn't like. One thing that wasn't helping our cause up there on the gravel is like both of the steer tires, it's like they're delaminating. The caps are like coming off of them, so they almost kind of act like they're flat. They have air in them though. Anyways, the forks for this unit are in the bucket of that wheel loader over yonder, so let's try to go over there and get them, I guess.
It's big, Texas. 75 inches big. Right torque for total Richardson. Warning.
Definitely some wonkiness going on with these back tires, the way they're delaminating. It's like, it feels like you're riding on marshmallows in the rear. Can't hardly keep it straight. Well, with the steer tires delaminating and a lack of brakes, it's an interesting ride, but hey, it's running and driving, so I can't be too upset. Came with a decent set of forks as well. They're not all wore out. Lots of life left in them. Installed. Let's go fork something up. Yeah, this that's good. Keep it running. There we go. We got us our first pallet with this thing. So I guess it works. Let's see if we can make it around the shop and all that gravel. Kind of a veritable minefield here right now. I've got concrete that was left over from a pour that we just spread out here, which is fine. Pretty easy to get on and off of it with anything. This thing, yeah, walked right up on that. I actually just hit this again with the roller yesterday though. So it is about as packed as it's gonna get. Seems all right. I tell you what though, those steer tires, like I said, they are making you feel really wonky in here. Let's try kicking it up into high range now, see what we got there. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is gonna get to be a handful at speed. Don't hit the contractor's trucks now. They won't like that, even if it is a Dodge. Oh goodness. video. If you can keep it held to the rug for 8 seconds, you win. Oh boy. Yeah, let's not do any speed runs until we get some tires on this unit. Oh goodness. We're shedding even more rubber off those steer tires now. Got to run through this gravel, up onto the concrete, snatch up a pallet of cardboard boxes, and get back off without hurting anything. There's giant chunks of our steer tire laying everywhere. We lost the box, that's points off. Look at, there's a chunk of steer tire. There's a chunk of steer tire. There's another small chunk of steer tire. Oh yeah, we're just shedding. As long as we can keep the majority of the boxes, we're doing all right. Mission accomplished right there. Nailed it. Nailed it. Almost got stuck again, pulling up through that gravel there. Well, it runs and drives and functions. Definitely could use some TLC, a little bit of tough love. Let's see if it's gonna fire back up. We gotta say something about that. It does start. Heck, the battery even holds the charge apparently. The temp sensor doesn't appear to be working because it still says we're below 100. I don't know, guys. Pause this video. Let me know what you guys would do in this situation. It's not really the forklift of my dreams, that's for sure. But it does kind of fill a role a little bit. Decisions. Well, it's a rainy Wednesday morning here in November, which means it is miserable outside, it's cold, it's chilly, it's damp, that moisture cuts right through you. We're gonna work in the shop here today. So I got this Clark pulled in here and we're gonna start giving it some love. I think the first thing I wanna do is actually knock these rear tires off of there. And we'll take those down to Ferguson's and hopefully they can hook us up with some used skins for the back end. If I was gonna keep this thing, I think that we would put some new ones on it, but at this current moment, we're not in love. So I think we're going to try to find something used, a good price point where I can kick this thing down the road and have some profit. So as I tried to show you guys when we were running it around outside, these rear tires are, I don't know what you'd call that, delaminating. The tread is just falling off. It's down to the cords, the wires are showing, and makes it pretty tough to drive, and it's kind of like you're riding around on a marshmallow. Before nuts off there, I had to read this a couple times to make sure I wasn't doing something stupid. This rim, it says cast right into the ring here. It says deflate tires before removing wheel nuts. Now I'm reasonably certain that these are the lug nuts, what hold the whole wheel assembly on, and then the nuts that it's talking about are these. This should be a two-piece rim and basically just two halves of a flange bolt together, hold the tire on there. So what they don't want you to do is zap all these bolts off and the air pressure from the tire basically just catapult that rim half right into your face. We should be able to take those lug nuts off without having that issue though. That being said, for the 2 seconds it takes to pull the valve core out of there, we can be 100% certain we're not going to take a rim to the face. And I don't really want a rim to the face. How low can you go? Boy, without any tread on them, these tires kind of look like those ones you see on like beach wagons and stuff, those big balloon tires that run on the sand. I don't think they're quite the same. All in all, this does not seem like a terrible machine. Just the transmission, man, I really can't get over that hang up with the transmission. It just makes it so much more complicated to use. I mean, yes, I can use it. It is more of a pain. But the thing is, like, if I get in a 9-line bind out here, and I need to call up the wife and say, hey, I need you to use this forklift real quick while I do something. She's never run a forklift before, let alone a standard transmission one. She could probably figure out a power shift forklift like the Toyotas. She could figure that out. That's not that hard. To put her on this thing, I lose an arm or a finger, guaranteed. Nothing against her. It's just, it's not going to shake out well. Why won't you come off? Come on. There we go. All right. Let's take these down to Ferguson's and get some new skins. So we're back in the tire shop. We don't have our tires back yet. But in the meantime, while we're waiting on them, we're going to go ahead and dive into this thing and figure out what exactly we want to fix and don't really want to fix. I know one thing for sure, I want to fix this cage from where I bent it trying to unload it with Fat Alice. That didn't pan out too good. What made me feel a little bit better about the whole ordeal is that, I don't know if you guys can see, the piece that broke here is already rusty all the way across there. That's not a fresh break, so that was already cracked and broken, and they just had this fender washer holding that down on there. Clearly not going to work when you're trying to lift it up. That washer's not going to do diddly. Shouldn't be that big a deal though. I'll just take the broken piece off, hold it up there, weld it back in place. Maybe have to drill that hole back out, of course. Hopefully we can just pull the cage back in with come along or something and get it bolted back down. What I want to do now is just get in here and maybe check out our regulator and our fuel mixture and stuff. Figure out why we're so hard starting, because it's still, unless this thing's super hot, will not restart without a little bit of ether, and I don't like that. After I removed the seat, I noticed that this piece here is pretty well bowed out, and I know why it did that. On the bottom side of the seat, there's like a little foot that's spring-loaded, so when you lift up that seat, it like latches itself on here. Well, it's not a great design, and what it ends up doing, especially because that seat's so heavy, is pushing on this thing, like shoving this thing outward. So, especially if you didn't realize it was trying to shove the seat down, it's just going to bend this thing out. So I'm going to use the porta power and try to bend this thing back. It's actually bent so far right now, the latch that holds the seat up. So if I push it all the way back to where it's supposed to be, it might actually end. This gonna fit? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's gonna work out nicely. Look at that. Pushing that back beautifully. Well, I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. Alright, well I want to get started on fixing this cage. Well, it's bent, but it's coming. Alright, well I'll just get that held up here. We'll tack it in place, grind it out, weld it in hard. Alright, I went ahead and put a good bevel on these things. Should be able to get some good weld penetration like that. A little bit of preheat here will help our cause. Take that chill off of everything. Makes that first bit of weld bite that much better. figure. Have the helmet on grind mode instead of blind myself. Alright, well, it might get western here. It's working. Look at that. We're going to draw it right in there. Uh-oh. Things are angry. Make no mistake, we got some pressure going on here. Things are snug. Looks like I can get the front bolt in, maybe. We're really close to getting the second bolt in there. I think I need to pull this forward now. Oh yeah, look at that, pulled nice. Okay. A couple more clicks forward, maybe a click or two to the side. We're gonna have this thing dialed in. It looks good. I think we can get the molding. All right, we got our fresh new hardware going in. Some extra heavy washers so that we spread that load. All right, we can tighten them both down. Those are done. I just wanted to step back and let you guys have a little look at this thing before I take it all off. We got something pulling in every dang direction there is. Oh, that's great. But hey, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and the YouTube Music app all together. Uninterrupted.
All right. We can let all these chains and straps loose. Back from Ferguson's with our brand used shoes here. Seems like I've been going through a ton of tire work lately. Luckily we have a good tire shop close by. There we go. Man, that was a lot better than we had before. Those tires we had before, because they had lost so much tread, you know, like the whole cap had come off them basically. The forklift was actually sitting down in the back end. Now we're sitting level, looks a lot better. I'm imagining it's going to handle a heck of a lot better. Alright, so I am just going around and basically rat killing, as I would call it. It will not start without ether, so it's not getting propane. So, I'm no propane system expert, but I'm kind of chasing my way through this thing, trying to figure it out as I go. Alright, so from my very basic understanding, this is our liquid propane line that runs down here into a pressure regulator. This unit has a vacuum sense line, which is this guy here, that comes from the intake manifold. So as you start to crank the engine over, it creates a little bit of manifold vacuum, and that should, in theory, work the regulator diaphragm in here to allow regulated liquid propane to run down this hose into our vaporizer, which is down here bolted into the throttle body. The only lines that run in or out of this vaporizer are the liquid propane in, and then there's a coolant circulation on here too, because this vaporizer will get icy because liquid propane is, you know, very cold as it's becoming a gas. It'll actually freeze up this vaporizer and it won't work. So what they do to overcome that is they run the coolant through the vaporizer. And theoretically, by the time the engine's warmed up, it's not yet frozen up to regulator, You get warm coolant circulating through there, keeps that thing from freezing, and you can keep the propane flowing. So you have liquid propane in, coolant in and out on the sides, and then there's a vent on the side of the vaporizer down here. The only other thing there is a push button on the side, and the push button manually overrides the diaphragm in there, allowing propane to go into the throttle body. So through trial and error and playing around here, I have determined that it will start if you use the propane primer button. So watch, I'll crank it now and it's not going to start. Nothing. But if I go down here and push and hold this primer button, fires right up. But as soon as I let off of that primer button, kills it out. Now, I think once this thing gets good and hot, and the hot coolant is flowing through that vaporizer, it does start to allow it to work a little bit, and that's why we were able to keep it idling a little bit when we were playing with it outside after we first got it running. Again, I'm not a propane system expert by any stretch. In fact, this is probably the most I've actually sat and studied one and tried to diagnose an issue, but I don't know rightly why that would work. And it also further complicates things in my mind that this vaporizer down here looks like it's a newer unit. This one up here seems to be, the regulator looks like original. You can definitely tell it's older than the vaporizer. So the only thing I know to do when I don't know how something works is remove it and tear it apart and try to figure out what's going on in there. Before I go through that big headache of trying to pull that whole assembly off there, I want to verify that our regulator is doing its job. I think it is because, you know, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to get propane by pushing that button. But I'm going to take this propane feed line off of the vaporizer and just manually put a little bit of vacuum onto this thing and see if the propane comes through this line. Okay, so there's the liquid line, and I'm just going to take the sense line, put it in the mouth, and give it a little bit of vacuum and see what happens. Oh yeah, works like a giddy. How about that? Very little vacuum required to do that. I'm actually surprised. Alright, so we've ruled out our regulator. I guess that has to leave the vaporizer. There we go. There's the whole shebang right there. Well, I ended up just ordering a new vaporizer here. The rebuild kit for this was like $35. A complete new assembled unit ready to bolt on was like $60. So yeah, you could have saved a couple bucks, but I don't know. I've kind of been told with these things, it's just easier to replace them. We've got our new one in the mail, so we're going to go ahead and take all these fittings out, change those all over, and then thread this guy onto this thing. Well, it was tight, but I have that regulator, vaporizer, throttle body, whatever you want to call it, all plumbed back in there, connected up, so I should be able to just turn the propane on, and hopefully this thing's just going to fire up now. I think that had to be our problem, although I didn't find a smoking gun when I disassembled the old one, so fingers crossed that we actually did something here. Can you guys give me a contact? Oh. Hot diggity. I think think we just needed to crank it a bit to get the air purged through the propane system. It never started or ran that nice before. Listen to this baby burn. That is always good to see. That's the most rewarding thing about doing this kind of work, is when you actually identify the problem and you fix it. For me, anyway. If I can tickle this key and it fires right back up, I'm going to feel pretty darn good about myself. Sweet! I'm calling that fixed, guys. This thing's working great. It's idling now. I wouldn't do that before. I think we are to the point here where we have a turnkey running unit ready to go to work. It's time to give her the old college try. Remember, we ran it around outside, but it was not running properly, so now that we have some new shoes on the back end and the engine seems to be running much better, I'm curious as to how she functions. There we go. Helps if you put it in neutral, sir. She just fires right up like a dream. Seems like my left front tire is a bit low, but I think we can work with that. To go running around outside and see what kind of top speed it'll do, but it's kind of pouring down rain and it's very dark right now, and it's supposed to rain for the next, I don't know, 6 months, seems like, anyway. I don't know that I ever lifted it up all the way outside so you guys can see. I don't think I can hit the ceiling with it, but it goes up pretty far. Definitely shy of the ceiling, but I'd call that maybe a 12-foot lift. No, more than that, 15. Pull it over here next to the garage doors for a height comparison. My doors are 14 feet tall. That seems to be roughly what the ports are up to. Maybe just shy of 14 feet. That's a pretty good lift. How often are you trying to pick up heavy things higher than that? The steering's pretty nice. It handles pretty well. My biggest and only really serious gripe with this machine is that it is not a power shift. I think if this was a power shift unit, I would be happy and I would keep this thing as my shop forklift. Seems like the governor could use some adjusting maybe, but functional as is. Oh, there you go. A functional forklift, ready to go to work for somebody. I paid $900 for it, and as I've talked about a bit in some other auction videos, I think a lot of people think I just go to these auctions and sit on this stuff, and albeit I do for a while, or some of it, you know, maybe more than I should. I should probably try to turn some more stuff over, but I turn over a lot of stuff like this thing. Paid $900 for it, you know, maybe let's call it, I don't think it was, but $1,100 with auction fees and everything all in. Let's call it $1,100 plus my time to go get it. And I think right now I can put this on the market for $5,000, and you know, where however close we get to that is still going to be way further ahead than what I got in it. So a funny thing happened to me actually at the onset of this video while I was lamenting my latest auction acquisitions. I had kind of moping to myself, you know, about discovering that that forklift wasn't a power shift and it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, and I was starting to think that I would never find the exact unit that I was looking for. So I popped on old Facebook Marketplace, and lo and behold, I found this guy. Look at what a cutie. This Clark CMP-15 is just about the exact forklift that I had been looking for, and I was able to find it for what I consider a pretty darn good deal considering the condition and the age for $3,500. I had to run up to Cleveland to get it, but I still think I did pretty good on this unit. This unit has just about everything on paper that I was looking for. This has cushion tires versus pneumatic tires. That's the only strike against it that I'll give, but it's a trade-off because these tires are actually solid, but they kind of work like the pneumatic tire. They do much, much better than a solid tire. You can still run this thing around outside. I already have a bit. Works fine on the gravel and stuff. You just kind of got to watch yourself that you don't spin the tires in the loose gravel or anything. This is a triple stage mast versus just the double stage mast. This one I think we figured out there by the garage door goes up about 13, 14 feet. This one here goes up 8. Is almost capable of hitting my rafters. It comes because 18 feet 6 to the bottom of the rafters at the wall. But the main things that I was after in purchasing said unit is A, power shift, B, its smaller footprint. So this is a 3,000 pound capacity unit, which makes its total weight like 6,800 pounds, something like that. This one being a 4,000 pound unit, puts its total weight at like 7,300 pounds, I think, something around there. And while the weight isn't super critical to me, unless I was hauling it, it doesn't much matter. And even 7,000 isn't really hard to haul for me. What comes with that lighter weight is the reduced footprint. So for running around in the shop here, you know, getting in close quarters, tight to maybe various projects that I have in various states of disrepair, I'd like the smallest footprint possible, and this one is actually a hair smaller than the orange Toyota that I had in here that I actually just sold. But anyways, this one is just a little bit smaller than those Toyota forklifts, and it still is nice and peppy as far as the hydraulics are very quick versus these older forklifts. The hydraulics are kind of slow on. That was a big reason that we upgraded from the Alice Chalmers forklift that I had years and years ago. The last thing that this has that I was pretty much dead set on having is side shift. So the old Clark here does not have side shift. This one does. The forks move side to side, and that is super, super convenient, especially if I'm using this thing as an impromptu crane and I'm, you know, trying to line things up like we did with those rear ends in the auto car a couple videos back. Having that ability to